Hello and welcome to SRIRAM's IAS. We start today the new series of Indian economy in which we will be discussing this entire book. I know that in Indian economy students have persistent problem that they do not find anything consolidated enough to cover the whole syllabus. But this book comes with a promise that it will cover the whole syllabus from page to page. And if you see and find this book bulky, or you might have seen other sources also in the market which consist of around 1000, 2000 or 3000 pages, comparatively this book has been recently updated. It has, I believe, the most updated data till now. This book has other features also, like if you turn the pages, you will find some snippets, you will find fact check, you will find graphs, boxes, and you might have also seen SRIRAM sir himself talking about this book, that this book has been consolidated as per the demands of the UPSC. What do we mean by this? That if you see at the end of every chapter of this book, you will find the PYQs which have been asked by UPSC in prelims and mains, and that has been inculcated in whole of the book along with the answers, those answers which UPSC considered correct. Because if I see, for example, if I tell you, there was a question in 2018 which asked about the opportunity cost. That question, or I would say opportunity cost per se as a word, is mentioned in NCERT of class 12th microeconomics. Now, once you go through that NCERT, that opportunity cost word is mentioned once, that too in a detailed description of an image, not per se as a topic. But here in this book, once we take that, you will also understand that if UPSC is asking you about opportunity cost, you also have to remember that what UPSC considered its actual meaning. Understood? What is the difference between trade-offs and opportunity cost? What is scarcity? What is choice, productivity, production? Everything which UPSC asked has been almost covered in this book. Now, this book comes with multiple other factors, like it will cover the mains aspect also. So therefore, once we do this book in the next, I would say 30 to 35 videos or lectures, maybe it might take more, or it might take 50 lectures, because usually it takes 35 lectures for foundation. And for this book, I have planned around 60 hours of videos, and 60 hours of videos do take around 60, I would say, classes. If we keep it for 1 hour, it depends on all of your response. If the students got me more interesting, if the students showed up their love, if you come up and show up your love in the comment section and try to find this book more, I would say, lucid, I would say that this book will be, that you will find me, that you will memorize and you will inculcate, internalize all the concepts of economy once we go through the lectures of this book. Now, before we delay anything further, I would like to start the first lecture, as I have already introduced what all am I going to take in these videos. And at the last, there is one more thing which I have added. Not only this book, but also there are multiple other books which we usually do not read in UPSC. That is like, for example, The Wealth of Nations, for example, The Undercover Economist, for example, the Thomas Piketty, for example, other books, Keynesian Economy. I myself have read those books, and I will be inculcating matter from those books into these lectures. So therefore, these lectures will not only consist of this book, but also a detailed explanation. For example, in the first chapter also, you will find that there is a debate about Carlyle's theory, Thomas Carlyle's theory, that how Thomas Carlyle told or gave a discourse about dismal science, that economics is a dismal science or it's a gay science. Now, you might find that in that box of economics, you might find that this description is a little short. But yes, in our discussion, once we go through the lecture, I will be explaining you that what was Malthus' argument and what was Thomas Carlyle's argument, and why was it later on decided that in the present times also that economy is per se important. Understood? And there are different dimensions to economics as a science. Now, we won't be only going through economics or Indian economy for just prelims or for just means, as has been a biggest problem of UPSC industry, that everyone teaches economy in silos. That is, they will teach you economy for prelims separately and economy for mains separately, as if there is no link between mains and prelims. But that is not true. If you do not understand that mains and prelims is both integrated, and we need to do every topic in an integrated and cohesive manner, till that time you won't be able to crack the exam. So therefore, it is well said by toppers, if you do mains, your prelims is done. If you do prelims, your mains is never done. So therefore, let's start the first lecture. The first lecture talks about economy and economics. It says that, or I would say that this chapter talks about per se to understand the societies, that how societies produce, distribute and consume resources in the face of scarcity. Now, I will be just making the terms lucid enough so that you remember them. Now, understand what is society. Do you remember that in the primitive times, in the ancient times, we had primitive society. This primitive society was dependent directly on two things. One was hunting and gathering. Second, it was totally dependent on natural resources. Understood? Understood? Now, second. Now the point is that how this society will produce. Why would this society produce anything? Now remember that every man or every human was once alone, and then they made family, and then they made society, then state, and then country. It is argued by the sociologists and economists that, or by the I would say political thinkers, everyone says, say for example Aristotle says that man is by nature a political animal. Similarly, there are sociologists who say that man is by nature a social animal. Why do we say this? Because man himself comes with needs, and these needs have to be fulfilled. Now, needs and wants both have to be fulfilled. First is the need. You will see a debate between needs and wants in this chapter. Now, what are the needs? For example, hunting, gathering for survival. For a shelter, they were making caves, or they were making some of the, I would say, raw shelters. But understand, for hunting, gathering, clothing and shelter, they were fulfilling their needs. Now, these needs by himself were too much to fulfill on their own. That is why man made family, in order to fulfill his other needs. For example, biological needs and social needs. For the other purposes like teaching, learning skills, developing a cohesive bond, or developing brotherhood, developing a larger family, this family made society or a clan in order to fulfill those needs which were not fulfilled by the family. And now understand that it was not just now need, it is a want now. Want means that I want to have wealth, I want to have cars, I want to have house, that too big and luxury. It is only humans who do not confine themselves to the nests of their size. Rather, these humans tend to have a house which is far, far, far bigger than what they actually need. That is why the debate between needs and wants. That is why we need to produce more. What kind of services or goods do we need to produce? For example, a man who needs or who wants leisure time wants anyone other than him to produce food for himself, and then he will purchase that food. Now, if someone else is producing the food, or if this society is producing food, or they are producing agricultural output, crops, whether that you talk about the Neolithic age, when the societies turned towards settlement, or when the societies turned and started settling down around the agricultural fields, at that point of time, it was to be decided that who should produce and what should be produced, and then how. Once this produce is there, once the production is there, once the agricultural crops have produced, now how to distribute them? That is one more question. Who will distribute them? It depends on their ownership. Ownership of these resources will define that who and how will these resources be distributed. And then the consumer resources and the consumption of these resources in the light of scarcity. Now, I would just give you an example. If there was, wherever you are sitting, whether you are sitting in a library, whether you are sitting in a room, whether you are sitting in a classroom, or on your bed or on your study table, if you find that there is a heap of money, I would say a pile of money sitting right next to you, and there are 3 to 4 people sitting right next to you, what do you think? Whom of you will grab the money first and try to have as much as possible, or I would say as more as possible out of that heap of money? That is where consumption comes in. This consumption of goods gives us utility. Whether you read one book, whether you take one mouse, whether you have one system, whether you have one mobile phone, whether you have one coat or one shirt or one pen, one watch, that is consumption. How much do you want actually? And how much do you need actually? You need one pair of shoes to help you walk, to help you move, or to help you be mobile enough. Now, if you understand that, why do boys have a stack full of sneakers? Why do girls have a rack full of shoes? That is a question we need to ask ourselves. That are we consuming irrationally? Are we consuming too much what is not needed? Are we actually driven by our wants or by our needs? That are the questions which economy actually answers, which economics actually tend to answer. Understood? So therefore, why do we need to rationally consume? The rational consumption, why is it needed? Because if you see that majority or major share of the food insecurity or food crisis is because we have food wastage. And why is food wastage there? Because there is too much consumption. And every party, every hotel, every restaurant, they throw away a lot of food into waste. Why? Because people do not consume it. Why? Because we do not have storage. And that is why there is scarcity. What kind of scarcity is there? We do not have enough resources. Natural resources of earth by nature are limited. We came to this conclusion late enough. Humanity was, I would say, late enough to come to the conclusion that this earth has limited resources, and that is why the Brundtland Commission will come up and say that we need to work for sustainability. The sustainable growth is important, and that is what we will be going through in these lectures, in the first lecture also. Now, the 15 minutes which we talked about sets the base for economy and sets the base for all of this book, because this book touches the core of the economy. It starts with the basic problems of economy. It understands why economy as a science emerged, why economy as a subject emerged. And that is where we need to understand, that this is not just a book. This is not just a book to understand or to qualify exam. That is the basic thing which you will get along with this book, that you will qualify your exam. Or you might have found out that on YouTube or on multiple other social media platforms, across the videos or strategy videos of toppers, every topper has referred to SRIRAM's IAS notes and SRIRAM's IAS material for economy. That is why this book comes with these promises, that it will cover all of this. Now, I have just discussed only one slide of first lecture. In the upcoming lectures, we will be discussing all what has to be done in the videos. But before that, I want you to understand that this book will help you to become a better person rationally, in terms of consumption, production, and in terms of making better choices, rational choices. Understood? So let's come and join me every day, share this word, share that we all are making this community large enough, and I want all of you to participate in the comment section. And once you participate in the comment section, do show that how better can we do in these videos, how much I would say changes or anything, any feedback, any suggestion, whichever you want to give. You can post it in the comment section. I will be reading the whole comment section and I will be coming up with the answers to your questions. Any doubts, any queries, anything regarding UPSC, I'll be really happy to help you all. So, what lies to you is a responsibility, that is to make the community bigger. And how would you make the community bigger? By posting these videos and sharing these videos. And that will help us all. I wish that we will start. The next video will be about the first lecture of this series, and then we will begin the first lecture. I hope that you liked the introduction, and that will be all for this video, and I thank you all for being here.